The trading card game space is poised to have another massive year in 2025, so here are 5 new or upcoming trading card games to keep your eye on this year. Starting with the game we know the least bit about. This is the Godzilla trading card game, and it is one that is, employing the very popular and storied IP of Godzilla. 70 years worth of monsters, of kaiju, of creatures fighting. I grew up watching a good bit of Godzilla, I'll put it that way. I didn't sit there and grind all Godzilla lore, but I did grow up watching a good bit of the old stuff, and this IP is going to have some staying power, not just here stateside, but very particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, and of course Japan in general. This is being produced by Bushiroad, the same creators and progenitors of card games like Card Fight Vanguard, and we're going to be getting more information about this trading card game as we get closer to the Bushiroad summit. I forget what it's called specifically, but it's essentially like a big press conference that they're having on January the 13th. But until then, we don't know anything about this. But you need to keep your eye on it because, like I said, this is a very popular and well-known IP, and it's being produced by a card game company that is a card game company through and through. So you know they're going to be putting a lot behind it, especially with there being such a storied history for the IP. So keep your eyes on this one, and we'll see how it progresses this year. Next up is a game I had on my list last year. If you watched the video from last year, top 5 new trading card games of 2024, Altered TCG made the cut in that list. And I'm bringing it back this year because it is under a year old. Keep in mind, all the games on this list are under a year old or haven't been released yet and will release in 2025. And Altered deserves a spot this time around. And the reason being is this. It was perhaps the smoothest Kickstarter fulfillment and just overall campaign I've seen. It was overwhelmingly successful. Millions of dollars raised for this game. It was poised to really do some transformational things in the trading card game space, and it's starting to fulfill on some of those promises. And not only that, every single person that I've talked to that has played this game has enjoyed the experience. And that's not saying nothing, because this is not your normal trading card game where, you battle your opponent. This is a lot different from the way most trading card games play, and yet people all around me are really enjoying it. Now, I will say it's still a pretty niche game. It's not something that is, like a big 3 immediately upon release. But the fact that people are engaged with it and it's releasing its second set at the end of this month is a really, really good sign. So I have my eyes on this, and I'm really watching when Trial by Frost releases in January. I think January 31st, the last day of January. It's going to be coming out fairly soon. I'm very interested to see how Altered continues to do this year as it approaches the midway point of the year when it hits its 1-year anniversary. Keep it on your radar. Next up is perhaps the largest IP on the, well, no, it's probably not the largest. It might be the largest IP on this list, actually. That's interesting to think about. Perhaps the largest intellectual property on the list at this point, League of Legends is releasing a TCG, the Project K TCG, a League of Legends themed trading card game, is going to be coming out at some point this year. People have already gotten their hands on some of the pre-release product out there. They're doing something very similar to what Lorcana did, where Lorcana had this pre-release product is more collector's pieces that you could get your hands on at a convention center, convention event, essentially. They're doing something similar to that. People have their hands on these cards, but the interesting thing about this is that it was, as far as I can tell, originally going to just be a Chinese release. But there was such a groundswell of interest and support for this that it is, of course, getting a full worldwide release. Whether that happens this year or it just releases in China this year and then releases full worldwide later on remains to be seen. But this is a really interesting one because it was built, so they say, from the ground up, not just for 1 versus 1 play, but for multiplayer play. Not just 2v2, but full-on 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1 multiplayer, social multiplayer, as you can see it on the screen right there, which is really interesting. And not only that, it doesn't necessarily play like any run-of-the-mill trading card game. It plays a lot more, it has shades of, if you know this game, you probably recognize it, shades of Smash Up within it, where you're battling for locations, the control of those locations, and those locations earn you points to win the game. And that's kind of how Smash Up played. It's a fantastic board game. You should pick that up if you like board games. But this has similar play to that. It also does some interesting things with the combat system. So I am very curious to see how this goes. Again, this is perhaps the largest intellectual property on the list this year. And not only that, it's looking like it was made for social play experiences. I think this is really going to set it apart, not just from other games, but just within the trading card game space, if they lean in heavily to the idea of 2 versus 2 or like multiplayer madness style stuff. This could do some really, really big things to the industry if this catches on. Project K, who knows when it's going to release? But I'm waiting for it. And I should say that if you're looking for any products for some of these upcoming games, particularly the last one on this list, check out minmaxgames.com, the longtime channel supporter and fantastic people. They love card games, they love games in general, and they want to take care of you. So minmaxgames.com will have a lot of what you need for these upcoming card games. Okay, look, the next one, some of y'all are going to hate on me, but look, this is the only game that's not a physical trading card game, and yes, it's Pokemon TCG Pocket, but I have to put it on the list, okay? This just came out a couple of months ago in October, and I mean, there's a couple of reasons why I need to include this. First things first, this is perhaps the future of trading card games. And it's called a trading card game, and it needs to be called a trading card game because they are going to be implementing trading very soon. You will be able to trade digital cards completely and totally. But there's another reason why this, in my opinion, needs to be included on the list, not just because this is truly a trading card game, but this is perhaps the best implementation of a digital system for a trading card game that we've ever gotten. I think this is the best app for a trading card game, period, end of story. Your ability to collect, your ability to open packs, your future ability to trade, your ability to even just interact via like this Wonder Pick system where you can, piggyback off of someone's recently opened pack, and you can grab a card alongside of them and then say thank you and like interact with them in that way. Absolutely massive. I have spent a lot of time on this app. And here's the crazy part. I'll be the first to tell you, I am not super crazy on the Pokemon trading card game. I think there's a lot of randomness in this game that you have to find your way and mitigate through and navigate through. And sometimes that's a good challenge. And sometimes it's freaking frustrating because the better player doesn't always win. But that's okay because all the wrappings and trappings around this game make it that much better. Sometimes you don't win, but you can just queue up so quickly and play again. And there's so many different little things to try and side quests to do. If you wanted to, you could just spend your entire time grinding these solo, events. Which I just started doing again because I gotta beat the Blastoise EX one, which they just released. This, to me, is the future of digital trading card games, and every company that is looking to put out a digital client for their game should take this and just figure out how to do something similar for their game. They kind of morphed and transformed the TCG that we actually know, and some of us love and some of us may not, made it more streamlined, more functional, faster, snappier, and easier for you to pick up and run with. And I had to put it on the list because this is going to be massive continuing forward. I don't see any way for them to really kill this unless the implementation of trading absolutely bombs. This is going to be probably one of the biggest games of 2025, if we want to even call it of 2025, because it released October 2024, but had to make the list. And finally, perhaps the game I'm most excited for, and also just daggers in my heart, Gundam card game. I love the Gundam series. I was pretty big into Gundam as a kid, as an adolescent. And I was actually invited to go to the Gundam release event. I was not able to make it, which just absolutely crushing because it looked amazing. And this card game looks amazing. Here's the thing. I think Bandai has really started to perfect their specific system. You look at the other games that they've released, and I was kind of down on Bandai the way that they've been doing this. They have the One Piece card game, which is absolutely in the top 4 card games right now. It is probably starting to, push out one of the top 3 and become a big 3 card game if it stays, around for another 3 years. I think it will probably push Yu-Gi-Oh out. You look at that, you're like, okay, why is this, not the number 1 focus? Well, because they have other ideas and they're iterating on their system. And you look at like Digimon, for example. Digimon was a very, very cool game and still is a very cool game, not their sole focus. Obviously, One Piece, huge game right now, massive IP, not their sole focus. Gundam, massive IP, not their sole focus, but it's taking things, the best parts even, from the other games that they've produced and making it work in a thematic way for the Gundam IP. And that is what is really, really cool about this game. If you want to know how to play this, by the way, there's a lot of similarities, a lot of shades of their previous Bandai games. There's a really cool system where you can put your pilot on to a specific mobile suit and get benefits from it. Reminds me a little bit of like what you might do in Digimon, but it's got a side deck so that you can kind of work your way through the resource generation in a way that's similar to something like a Hearthstone or, of course, like a One Piece. There's all these fantastic pieces to make this game really, really great, and I'm very excited for it to actually fully release and people to be playing it because I think it will do very well. I'm very curious to see as well, does the success of this card game necessitate the stepping back of the One Piece card game, or can they both survive without cannibalizing themselves? I don't know, but I'm very curious to find out. If you have an idea, let me know down in the comments what you think of these 2 card games, and if you think they're going to eat each other, or if one is going to just sort of take the pedestal and keep it the entire time. But as I stand here and tell you about these 5 card games, let me know what I missed in a comment below. Is there a card game that you think deserves a spot on the top 5 of 2025? Now remember, these are new card games that are under a year old, will hit a year this year at some point, or will be released this year. So if there's one that you have an eye on as well, I want to hear about it. And if you want to see more information or more coverage in this channel, on this channel, for any of these 5 card games, let me know that in a comment below. And of course, make the number go to another number, because that's what we do here. We make numbers go up. Numbers going up is cool, and you are too. Happy 2025, everybody. As always, thanks for watching.